I started working out when I was 11 years old because for the first time in 7th grade, I saw this pretty girl and just something clicked in my mind. I looked down. I couldn't even see my dick because my belly was so big. And I correlated in my mind that if I kept looking like this, me right now would not equal attracting this girl. So all of high school, I was the only kid lifting weights hard, working out heavy, 500 squat, 315 bench, 575 deadlift. I was the only guy in the friend group who got fucking ripped on for small calves, massive forehead. My best friend would always look at me and go, your collarbones are so genetically shit and your hips are so wide. You basically look like a female. Of course I found it hilarious, but all my friends would always be saying this to me and always pointing out these little flaws in my body. It went from me like thinking I was the best looking physically, the hardest working in the gym, to at times genuinely feeling like an ugly piece of shit. I never thought of any of these things as problems. Even when I was fat, I never thought it was a problem until people started making fun of me for it. So I think body dysmorphia, as we always say, it stems from society. You look at these magazines, these models, things on social media, and it starts subconsciously implanting into your mind about what the ideal standard of this person or that person should look like, and you start forming what you want to look like. And you know, like honestly, sometimes I think it can be good. When I was extremely obese as a kid, when I saw my heroes like Arnold, David Goggins, Jeff Side. Oh my God, if you were in the Jeff Side age, you're an OG gym bro. But when I saw these guys, just looking at this physique, just looking at naked dudes all my life. But looking at these physiques gave me so much motivation growing up to achieve like a body like that. I remember every single night I would go to sleep just thinking about how hard I'm gonna work the next day to achieve that, and that was the goal, and I was so excited to get it. Having greatness, having these amazing physiques, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's fucking phenomenal. Where I do think people get body dysmorphia the most from is from their most inner circles. Like imagine, the people closest to you, the people that genetically thousands of years ago in the tribe, the people that are supposed to hunt with you, keep you alive, are like attacking you, like they're shitting on you. Of course it could be fun, but if it's over and over and over, that's what is gonna predetermine how you think about yourself. So I know so many of you guys struggle with this too. I get messages about this all the time, and for so long I couldn't relate until I thought to myself, I'm like, wait, I fucking struggled with this shit myself for 10 years. I just suppressed it so far down and didn't even think about this as a big deal. I kept thinking like, oh yeah, bullying is healthy. A small amount of bullying should be a little healthy. So today we're gonna talk about how I learned to cure body dysmorphia. Because I can safely say for 10 years of my life, I always had these little imperfections and things. And when I learned this one tip, one trick, or there's just one way of thinking, first time in 10 years, it took 9 years. I was probably the highest body fat I've ever been, the weakest I've ever been, but I looked in the mirror and I genuinely loved my body. And we're gonna talk about why. So the first off is, why should you fix this body dysmorphia? Now, besides the ever crippling hatred of yourself when you look into the mirror, sometimes being insecure, like when my friends were making fun of me for my shoulders, I used to be the guy with so much confidence, so much self-belief. I would walk into the fitness room at 12 years old with these 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, and I would be proud of my body. I would walk out into the beach and I'd be so proud that I was lifting weights, to the guy who would cover up with long sleeves, with t-shirts, even though I was bigger than every single one of my peers. One of the most important is might just be the lack of confidence that you have with women. Now think back to your time in high school and college and look at all the guys that in society look like shit. They have bodies that would resemble a bag of milk. But hey, think back to how many of those guys were the ones who got the girls. They didn't have body dysmorphia. They fucking owned what they had. Sure, did they not look good in terms of what guys like us on self-improvement who work out thinks looks good? No, they didn't have any true body dysmorphia, and they were able to like fucking rock their shit, own their shit. And trust me guys, for the first 10, 20, 30 times I had sex, I remember looking down at my belly, looking down at my body. It would make my erection go away because I was just embarrassed. I would look down and be fucking embarrassed about what I look like. I would go on dates with girls and things would pop into my mind like, oh fuck, she's staring at my tiny shoulders. Or like she could tell that I don't have a genetically good jawline. I would think of these things and they would Of course, they wouldn't stop anything and cripple me, but they would put a huge block into like my flow state. And I think your flow state when you not only interact with women, but with other people is so important. It keeps you in your most present, focused line of work. Like when I'm talking to you guys right now, I'm trying to keep in the most flow state. And when you have all these negative thoughts about yourself, it can go from keeping you out of flow state in conversation with people to when you're trying to perform, when you're trying to get better, make your body look better, you shut down and you're just thinking about the negative. And so many times I would think about the negative and go, you know what, if it already looks like shit, I'm not gonna keep working on it. So what can you not fix? You cannot fix the shape of your muscles. So if you have like a longer head of a bicep, like it goes closer toward your elbow, it's not gonna look as aesthetic to most people because you won't be able to get like a rounder peak on the bicep. You're not gonna be able to control exactly where your chest inserts. Like, bro, look at this. Like, this is fucking sad, man. Well, like one chest goes down like this and the other chest curves like this. You're not gonna be able to control those shapes of the muscles. You cannot change the length, shape, and size of any skeletal structure. So how wide my clavicles are, how wide my hip bones are, you cannot change that. So with all of these things, what the fuck do you do? Well, it's kind of like life. Your body is gonna represent your life. You're gonna be disadvantaged in so many ways. Maybe you grew up in a bad socioeconomic place. You grew up in a racist place, being a different race, and you're just getting fucking shit on by everybody. You grew up shorter, not as attractive facially.
You said skeletal?
Skeletal.
Isn't it skeletal?
Skeletal. Actually, Tanner.
Is it really?
Sorry, we don't listen to gingers on this channel. There's some things that you just cannot change. They were predetermined, and if you cannot change them, the only thing you can do is work your fucking best to get them bigger. That is it. That is the only way. Let's say you have terrible bicep insertions where your biceps insert all the way down here and then they look so much smaller. Your biceps look more deflated like that because it's much more surface area to carry. Now you can either just fucking whine about it and build every other muscle up and still have this even more disproportionately lagging bicep now, or you can build that muscle group so much bigger that sure, will it ever get that big peak of a bicep and get that shape? No. If you're working it as hard, if not harder than the other muscle groups, you're still gonna build that mass, and that mass, having so much more mass, will make up for everything else. Mass is not only important for this, but like if we go deeper into this shit, the golden thing that most women are looking for, like even though they don't want to say it, like let's be honest, like no healthy woman is looking for like a fat bag of milk. So I'm not saying get big and bulky and fat like a powerlifter. I'm not saying get 8% body fat like a bodybuilder, but you want to get to a level of attractiveness with a decent level of muscle. So now, this is what you can 100% fix and the solutions. Easily, if you're too fat or you're too skinny, you know, all these fucking fitness guys on the internet are gonna give you this long ass answer of exactly the amount of bulk and cut. That is it. Gaining a lot of weight, losing a lot of weight. My recommendation is if you are absurdly skinny, for 5 days, track into a calorie counter like MyFitnessPal exactly what you're eating. Don't fake the diet and pretend you're eating more than you actually are. Just eat exactly what you would eat normally, track that in, take those 5 days of food, add them all together, now divide them by 5, and you now have your average amount of calories that you just need to live. This amount of calories pushes you in the gym, this amount of calories allows you to do work, and this amount of calories just allows your brain to survive. So this amount of calories is the average amount of calories that keeps your body at this composition. If you're trying to gain weight, add around 500 calories to that, maintain that extra 500 calories until your weight stagnates for more than 2 weeks, then add another 2, 3, 4, 500, depending how fucking skinny you are. It's the vice versa opposite. If you're too fat, you do the exact same thing. You don't want to drop too fast. If you drop too fast, lose too much muscle, blah, blah, blah. Fucking, I'm not a fucking fitness guy anymore. I talk about mental health. So if you're already bulking and cutting and you have body dysmorphia, it is probably like the number one solution to all of this shit is just turn off social media. If you don't do it for a career like I do, truthfully, be honest with yourself. Do you need it in your life? You're already on this great self-improvement journey. Think about how much your life will benefit from turning off social media. You'll go outside more, you'll enjoy more presence and time with the people that you just love. And in this case, most importantly, you're not gonna see all these fucking 6'2" ripped dudes, fucking dick skin shredded, 8-inch cock, steal your girl, one stare. So whether you're bulking or cutting, a lot of people have body dysmorphia because they look at what other people look like, and then immediately they promise themselves they were gonna bulk for 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. It's 2 months in, like, oh, you know what? I just gotta go back to the abs. The grass always looks greener on the other side. boom, they cut the weight. And now in that 20 pounds of weight that they gained, they probably only gained 1 pound of muscle. And instead of prolonging that time and going longer, they've just wasted so much time by cutting. You're literally wasting time by stopping your bulk or cut early, because now if you're bulking, you have to cut down. Now your body has to get used to eating all those calories again later when you bulk, and you've just wasted so much time. So my suggestion is pick one, set one big weight goal, 50 pounds, 75 pounds, whatever it is, and set little markers of goals in between. And now it doesn't feel like such a big, crazy 50-pound weight goal. It just feels like you're trying to hit the next 5 pounds. This is gonna keep you on board. Now that you already have the social media gone, this is gonna keep you motivated to keep going on that. And I guarantee if you can have the discipline and the mental fortitude to commit and stick to a bulk for a long, long time, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, slowly, efficiently, just trying to focus on putting on muscle and not too much fat, and then do one big cut, you might never have the bulk or cut again. The best general range of how much you should bulk is pick a number that is just a little bit beyond your comfort zone. I did this, I bulked up to 200 pounds, I cut down once, and I almost never had to do a big bulk or cut again. This is the most important step. If you have body dysmorphia about the size, the problem that I had with like my shoulders and the clavicles being too small, you have the problem with anything looking too small, this is the one tip. Train what you're insecure with so much harder. My two biggest examples. It was 6 years of me being insecure with how small my shoulders were. For so long, everybody told me your shoulders will never grow. I was training shoulders once, twice a week, super hard, and they just never kept growing, and I was embarrassed about them. I had the most slouchy shoulders. I genuinely had tiny shoulders. One day, a switch flipped, and I said, fuck it. I'm going to try my very best to grow my shoulders. But Damien, you're already training twice a week. That's already enough growth. I said, shut the fuck up. It's a small muscle. I started training my shoulders 4 times a week. And not only did I realize how much I wasn't actually training them before, because now I started training 4 times a week, 4, 5, 8 sets on lateral delts, 8 sets on rear delts, 4 times a week. I put in the frequency. Quick tip, if it's a smaller muscle, it can take more frequency. So smaller muscles like forearms, biceps, triceps, shoulders, rear delts, whatever the fuck, chest, calves, those muscles can take more frequency because they're smaller, they recover faster, and if you do more frequency on those muscles, they recover faster, and then you have more time to put on more size. But simply the act of putting in more effort, putting those exercises to the front of my workout, prioritizing those muscles, because I used to only prioritize the muscles and the lifts that I was good at because those were fun, but I went into that discomfort. I forced myself to prioritize the muscles that sucked, my shoulders and my calves. In just 1 year, to be honest, my shoulders did not really even get that much bigger, but I started having so much confidence. They became my most dominant, my favorite body group. I was proud of them. And that was 3 years ago. And to this day, I look in the gym mirror and that is my favorite thing to look at. I am so proud of how they look, and they probably did not grow more than 25% of the size as they were before. I started wearing them out. I started pushing them up when I was walking around, and I just became so much more confident. And that's because I was proud of myself. I was proud of myself for putting in that work and actually committing to it. And I just realized that for so long, I wasn't putting in that work. Next best example is my calves. For my whole life, I was always ripped on that I had tiny calves. Although things like calves, they're so genetic. I would tell myself that it's genetics, I can't grow them, I might as well not grow them. And I fell into this bad cycle of not wanting to grow them. One day, switch flipped. I was like, I want to be a bodybuilder one day. Let me see how much I can fucking grow these calves. I went from genuinely not consistently training my calves more than 1 day out of a month for 9 years to training my calves just 3 times a week, going as hard as I could. Only 4 sets, 3 times a week. It was better than 0, better than 2 sets once a month. For the first time in 9 years, I look into the mirror now almost every single leg day, and I actually pretty fucking happy with my calves. I measured them before I started and after. They did not grow more than 1/4 of an inch. But my perception, something happened with my perception of me being more proud of them, and for some reason they just looked bigger. It's kind of like if when I was a virgin, I always thought I had such a small dick. Honestly, if I measured, it'd probably be pretty tiny. But like the minute I started having sex and like, I don't know, learning about how to have sex better and work on it, work on the skill, and like I was like, oh wow, I can actually perform well. genuinely in my mind, maybe I'm just deluded, but I deluded myself to think I have a bigger dick. Boom! Here's an actionable step because we've been talking about it. Pick the muscle group or the thing that you want to work on, that you're insecure about, that you have body dysmorphia for. The muscle group, let's say it's your shoulders, and write out right now, genuinely write out in a notepad how many days you actually train. Write out what the workout regimen for just that muscle group actually looks like. The next step, bring that muscle group to the start of your workout. Typically, whatever you're starting your workout with, you're gonna put in the most effort, most energy, and also scientifically you're gonna have more ATP, more carbs, more fuel for that muscle to actually push it harder. The last actionable step is revolve what you do around it to keep yourself more motivated and disciplined. So for example, best way to keep yourself more motivated and disciplined, write it down in a schedule, have like a checklist of, let's say you were doing shoulders once a week, now you're doing them twice a week, have it on a checklist, check it off every single time you do it. It's gonna hit you dopamine every single time you check off shoulders. Reward yourself. Maybe it's not about how big it gets, but let's say you train your shoulders once a week, now you're training twice a week. You promise yourself you're gonna do that for 2 months. You hit that 2 months goal. Instead of rewarding yourself with some bullshit like a cake or something at the end of the day, reward yourself with, okay, in 2 months, not if they've gotten bigger, but just if I've trained them consistently, like I've promised, because that's one of the only things you can actually get yourself to do. You can't promise how big things are gonna get. Trust me, I know this. You can only promise how hard you work on them and when you work on them. 2 months later, you've promised yourself you're now allowed to wear those fucking, those stringers in the gym. This even worked for things that aren't muscles. I was genuinely so embarrassed about my jawline. I have a terrible, like genetically, god-awful jawline. Everyone in my family got this thing called the gullet. Let me turn my head. Okay. So the gullet is, if you can see, besides having a higher percent of body fat, if I push my skin in, this is the shape of my jaw. First off, a more attractive jaw for most guys, like typically what's more attractive is having this bone that intersects, whatever the fuck this is, a little bit lower, and it looks more, that's more Chad, you know? That's more Giga Chad, come on. The next thing that's bad about the jaw is this. So how much fat I truly have is probably only that much, but this is the gullet. It's muscle fiber. And having like this gives that bad shape. So, if you've ever heard about mewing, no part of me believed that mewing was a thing. It's the principle of having really good, of re-perfecting your tongue posture. You know how our bodies, we can be slouching over and have bad posture. It makes us look less attractive, can make us look shorter. It's bad for our joints. Just by learning the proper posture and being conscious of it, by repetitively doing it, the form, you're just gonna naturally have better form and not have to think about doing it. Now, I used to walk around at 5'3", bitch, now I'm 5'7", because I've actively worked on my posture for so long. Once I started thinking about mewing, tongue posture, I started to believe it. And now I used to have a resting jaw like this. My natural default now is, look at the fucking difference on that. How you do it is you push the very back of your tongue up against the roof of your mouth. You want the tip of your tongue just a little bit behind the teeth. And like you can either make an N sound like and that will naturally get you in that position, or you can take a big swallow. So it even worked with that, and it's just getting practicing it, doing it, getting myself more proud that I can do it. I started taking more photos of the fucking jawline. I was like, yo, shit. I was like, this shit works. And now it became something that I was just proud of myself. I acknowledge that compared to most men, I probably have a very terribly genetically shaped jawline. But when I take photos now and stuff, I feel like I look sick. Also, losing fat helps. Just don't be a fat bitch. Kidding. And that, my friends, if you're gonna take anything away from this video, it's just putting in more effort to the things that you wanna change, to the things that you're insecure about. So many times we run away from the things that we're insecure about because we think, if it sucks already, it's never gonna get better. But we truly, deeply know that if you put more effort into things, not only do they psychologically get better, but they physically get better too. Because body dysmorphia is like any insecurity. It might not be true to everybody else, but it's true to you. So you can either get comfortable with it, like this big ass forehead, or you can work so hard at it that it doesn't matter the final result because you're just so focused on the pride that you're building. Lift more weights, mew a little, look sexy, and your dick's never gonna get bigger. Love you boys. Peace.